just want to share my personal experience to why I think educating other people is really important. So in 2011, my mom was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at the age of 51. I was currently in grade 10, so about 15 years old. I had no idea what this was going to mean for my family or for myself. But shortly after this diagnosis, our family roles started to change. My siblings and I had to take on more responsibility, whether it was helping make dinners or taking turns to be on mom watch or helping her get ready for the day. I started to miss out on opportunities and going out with friends, being around my friends, just because my mom couldn't stay alone. We all have to pitch in, help out in taking care of her, but it wasn't until a few years ago that I considered myself to be a young caregiver. It wasn't until someone else identified my role and gave it a name. And it's because young caregivers aren't something that you hear about. When people see a family and they notice that someone has exceptional needs, they look to the older adults and other parents in that scenario, and they look for them to be the sole caregiver. They don't realize how much Alzheimer's and dementia or other illnesses can affect the entire family, how even younger people need to step up and take on a caregiving role. And even when you look in the media, there are very few examples of young caregivers, and even if they are young caregivers, they aren't identified as such. And we are such an invisible population to the outside world, so people don't even see us in those roles. They don't understand our roles, and how can we expect them to support us in these roles either? And there aren't a lot of support systems that I've found for people dealing with a situation like myself. Despite the few resources, my siblings and I were lucky enough to be invited to an information session shortly after my mom's diagnosis. It was an opportunity to talk openly with my siblings about the diagnosis, how we felt, how things would change, how it would progress. And it was great to be given this place and someone to facilitate a discussion like this, because it can be difficult to open up that communication. It's a hard thing to talk about, and it was easy when someone else was there to take a step back and point things out and begin it for us. It was such a good experience to be given this environment, but it was obvious that there were limited resources that they could provide us with as young caregivers. It would have been great if there could have been videos with people our age dealing with the same situations that we could relate to them. If other families had been able to attend the session, it was just me, my brother, and my sister sitting there with one other person. And if they had information geared specifically towards people who are caring for someone with dementia and are in their 20s. So this experience really helped me realize the value of Alzheimer's support groups, and there are lots of support groups for older adults dealing with the same situation I am, and there's very little out there for me. We need to have a place to meet other people who can relate to our experiences, where we can meet other young adults who are juggling the challenges of being a caregiver with their school commitments or trying to launch their career. And we need an opportunity to connect with people who understand our unique challenges, whether it's a physical group or an online platform where we can connect with these people. Any support system at all would really be beneficial. But we also need support from healthcare providers, and they need to recognize our role and its value and contribution to caregiving. We should be invited to have conversations with these experts of the disease about the progression and how things will change and what's to be expected. Taking on this caregiving role is added stress and responsibility to my daily life, and healthcare providers should address this. They should make sure that young caregivers are taking self-care and making sure that their mental health is okay. It shouldn't be up to us to seek out support from them. It should be offered and available and encouraged for all family members to have this support. But people don't know how to give support to young caregivers, and I see it all the time when I simply tell somebody that my mom has Alzheimer's. A lot of time I don't get any reaction at all. It's just a continuation of normal conversation. There's no questions, no follow-up, no checking in. People feel awkward about asking about it, but that only perpetuates the stigma associated with dementia. I want to talk about it. I want people to understand. I want them to know how things have changed and how we're all doing. I don't want people to feel sorry for me or to think my life is hard. I want them to acknowledge the challenges I face and the responsibility I take on. I want my role to be valued, understood, and respected. In grade 12, I was figuring out where I wanted to go to university, and I turned to teachers at my school for their advice and input. I mentioned it was important that I stay relatively close to home. Someone asked why this was a factor, and at this point, I wasn't at a stage in my life where I could openly talk about my mom and how things changed and her diagnosis, and the only people who knew were really the people I had to tell because they were coming to my house or going to be interacting with my mom. And I think everyone needs to take their own time in coming to terms with it. But I was stuck in this situation where everyone's looking at me and is like, what's wrong? So I kind of just said that she was sick and things weren't going to get better. And I was later called down during class to go to a counselor's office, sat down in front of her and being told to tell everyone what's going on. And I was forced into a situation where I had to share. And again, there were no questions and no follow-up and no checking in. The only support I got was permission to use it as an excuse if I didn't finish my work. And that had never been a problem, ever. And they were telling me that it was okay for me to have special privileges, and I was embarrassed that this was that I was offered this when I'd never had a problem, and I felt like they were telling me I couldn't handle it. I've told other people, and all I get is shock that she could be so young and have this disease. And in situations like that, I feel like I need to comfort them. I've had an experience where I told someone and they were in such shock. All they could say repeatedly was, "You're gonna lose your mom." And I had nothing to say to that. I was like, yeah, but it's okay. I didn't really know what to say. So we need to educate others on how to support the family members, especially young caregivers. But we don't just need to educate older adults, we need to educate younger generations as well, because I need support from my peers. When I talk to my peers about my mom and my situation, I feel like I'm just teaching them about Alzheimer's disease. I have to explain that this disease is more than just memory loss. I have to explain everything that I have taken on in this new family role, and sometimes I'm still not sure they understand the effects it has on my life. I don't mind teaching them. I think it needs to be done, and if it helps them better understand and maybe support someone else, then that's the ultimate goal. But it would be nice if someone could start asking me the questions instead of making me bring up things all the time. If they could understand the basics of the disease in general, so I didn't have to explain every situation. Ultimately, we need to educate people, older adults, and the younger generation. And education needs to be focused on the realities of dementia and the effect that it has on every family member. Younger caregivers need to be recognized and valued for their role, but most importantly, we need to support these young caregivers who are supporting family members with dementia. These people might be facing a complete role reversal, taking care of someone who would normally take care of them. We need understanding amongst all systems, school systems, healthcare systems, and support systems. We need to let them know that we are here and we need support. We aren't asking for breaks or special privileges. We're just asking for acknowledgement. Thank you.